Welcome to another edition to What Keeps You Up at Night, the Life of an Entrepreneur. Joining us today is Todd Barber from Kame Kettle Beer Works. Welcome, Todd.
Thank you, Shauna.
How about telling us about what Kame Kettle is and what you do?
All right. Well, Kame Kettle Beer Works is a small craft brewery. We can call ourselves small. We were almost a spec size about 7 years ago. We've been in business 7 years and started this brewery in downtown Fonthill from where we brewed one keg of beer at a time. And we've grown exponentially since then to be able to brew many kegs of beer at one time. But we have a small tap room where people can come in and enjoy our product that we make. We have a beer store. You can take beer to go. We have a free delivery system that we can deliver freely across Niagara, and you can get your selection of craft beer. Part of our program as well is we have some matched up food pairings prepared by someone called the Righteous Monger, the purveyor of meats and fine cheeses, has put together a pretty specialized menu that hits everybody's palate and pairs well with our beer selection. So we support 8 beers on tap. Some of them are brewed on our small system, the one keg at a time system, to have on tap, but we also have all of our other 13 varieties available to sample. It's been an adventure. Like I said, 7 years. We started the brewery with the idea of building the buildings around the brewery to enhance it. So no sooner was it a fledgling brewery as did we have to build some buildings in and around it. So for 5 years, there was construction over top of the brewery. So two years without a crane above us. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. That's incredible. Wow. Well, what led you to becoming an entrepreneur? I mean, what professionally and maybe personally led to that decision?
Well, I have actually been an entrepreneur since the age of 10. So I have my entire income earning years have all been through entrepreneurism. So I actually own the building and have an architectural design business that the brewery is housed in. So I had this really cool space underneath my office. This was originally built as the 1952 post office, and it was the mail sorting room downstairs. Wow. I always thought there should be something more than just shovels and wheelbarrows down there. So, and we had often practiced the drinking of beer. So that all went hand in hand to discuss with my good friend and now business partner, Dave Beifuss, if we thought we could put a brewery together that people would enjoy to come to. So it was a fledgling idea that took about a year to get off the ground in terms of convincing, but we were able to make it work.
So as an entrepreneur, or a serial entrepreneur, as many folks call them, what have been some of your memorable accomplishments, but also some of the things that, you learned from, shall we say?
Well, there's been so many. It's hard to pick any out of the bunch, but I mean, it's become second nature. There's good days when you feel like you're cash flow positive, and there's other days when you have no idea where the money's going to come from. And I mean, I'm 54 years old now, and there's been 40 years of living like that. So it's now second nature, reach in your pocket, is there money or not? But I think a new entrepreneur really worries about that, worries about if somebody isn't feeding me the dollars, where does it come from? But at this tenure, I've realized that it's always there. You just got to work to get it.
So as an entrepreneur myself, and I'm not a serial entrepreneur, only a later life entrepreneur. Does your nervous system get used to the constant, kind of up and down and risk, I guess, and managing that risk and all of those things?
Well, there's compensating mechanisms. Sometimes you eat too much or you don't eat too much. um, but generally, I think after you've done it long enough, it does become just second nature. There's a series of problems that you're going to be presented with, and because you've conquered so many independently as an entrepreneur, you realize that there's ultimately going to be a solution, and that's not a brick wall.
Building resilience, maybe?
That's what I think it's all about, yeah.
And when you were 10, or maybe even with this brewery, you had a partner, you said.
Yes.
Were there people that doubted you? I mean, the craft brewing industry has changed a lot over the years, and it's ballooned now. And were there people that said, "It'll never work in that building. It'll never work in that mailroom"?
I don't think we ever got that. I think there was some people, I'm not sure who it was. It very well could have been my family saying, "Are you sure? You need another thing to do?"
Yeah.
Yeah.
What are the pros and cons of being a rural entrepreneur? What do you think about that?
Well, the cons I would say are that we're a little further off the beaten path, so you have to you're more of a destination, which can affect the potential growth or explosive sales that you desire to have. But some of the pros are that you become part of a network of tourism, agritourism. So in our example, there's been some fantastic tour companies that started up that we get included in on a regular basis. People get loaded in the van and go to breweries and wineries collectively, and we're part of that. The other part of it too is the convenience of specifically with our brewery of being able to get rid of some of our byproduct being spent grains, spent yeast. Um, we use fantastic quality malted grains to create beer, and we only expense about 50% of the sugars of them. So the livestock industry loves us. So we have some great partnerships where that gets shared amongst actually coincidentally some families that offset based on time of season. So there's a craft cattle raiser that takes in the winter, and there's a chicken farmer that grows half a dozen heritage pigs in the spring, and they load up the grains once a week and haul them off. And there's squeals and snorts when they start driving in with those big green bins of ours to the farm because yeah, so that's a huge convenience based. If we were in an urban center, that would be much more difficult to deal with that product or byproduct, I should say.
Is that a revenue stream that you came up with, or did the farmers come to you, or how did that work?
It's actually not a revenue stream for us. I mean, we get some meat in the freezer at the end of the year, but the it would have been a cost for us to dispose of. So it becomes
Okay.
no cost for us, and it offsets some of their expenses for feed. It's a huge offset actually for them.
I touched on it a little bit. There have been so many changes in the craft brew industry. My husband is a huge fan. He started brewing his own beer 20 years ago, and he was a nerd. Nobody liked it or him doing it. So there's been
They probably had
lots
the
of
plastic
change.
bottles.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. What changes have you seen even in the 7 years that you've been in business?
Well, there's been some breweries that have come and gone in
Mm.
Niagara, but there's been a lot of support for this idea of craft breweries. There's development of the Niagara Ale Trail, for example, and then a
Mm.
Go Sip campaign, which was an expansion of that through Tourism Niagara, and St. Catharines took the lead on that. But those programs supporting that concept of tourism relative to the craft beverage and food industry has been a big change that's happened within that time frame. There's also when we first launched our brewery, we didn't even make an IPA, which is a heavily spiced beer in terms of spice with
Mm-hmm.
hops. And if I tried to serve somebody in Fonthill an IPA, we started to make one about year two. Um, they'd be like, "Oh, yeah, I don't want that. That's too something." They didn't even know how to describe it. And now we have two IPAs on our menu. There's other breweries in Niagara that have a lineup of at least 10 of them, and it's become very popular. I think because people have developed a taste for variety, and with the IPAs you can get a very flavorful beer versus what the standards might be. So
Yeah.
that's
So
been a big
IPAs
change.
are,
Yeah, IPAs are big, and even in our little town here of Fonthill, we have people. I've seen people over the 7 years have their palate develop and change in what they would drink, even out of our own craft selection, let alone others.
do you do tours of your brewery?
We do. It's not very big, but
Yeah.
if you when you get storytelling, you can stretch it out a bit.
Well, what I was going to ask is when people take a tour of your brewery, what is the thing that they're most surprised about?
Um, that's a good question. They're pretty intrigued about the original system where we brewed that one keg at a time. It's still set up. We still use it weekly, and but the unique thing is that we fermented in wine demijohns.
Hmm.
So it's a refrigerated glass room that when you're in that section of the brewery looks very attractive with these beautiful blown glass vessels full of beer. And I would say that's what they're most interested in. We have the big silver tanks, the big stainless steel tanks, and that's pretty impressive, but everybody loves the demijohns.
I have actually never heard of one of those, so I think I would be
Oh
very
yeah?
intrigued. Yeah.
Yeah, it's used for a lot of Europeans would use that for winemaking in the cantina.
Okay. All
So
right.
a big circular glass thing with a tubular neck. Um, so we were able to pull these out of my partner's making wine collection and he had acquired them from some of the Italian relatives that he married into. And so once we had that established, because one would break every month or whatever, then people would start dropping them off and gifting them to us, knowing that we needed them. Yeah,
Awesome. That.
yeah.
So, what are some of the things that you're the most proud of in the past 7 years with the brewery?
Well, I think we're quite proud of how we could we could provide um, some culture to this small town of Pelham and downtown Fonthill specifically. I mean, they used to roll the street up at about 6 o'clock and everybody would go to bed, and now we have something that's a bit more exciting here, and the nightlife of the downtown culture has evolved over the last 7 years, and we're a big part of that. It's we're also this year we were quite proud of our engagement with our summer festival. Um, we had 2 years of COVID, so that was all shut down. But the good thing that came out of that was it modified our licensing to allow us to openly participate in the festival environment. So this year we built a substantial patio and took our branded minivan out onto the street and served beer right out of the side of it. Um, and our participation in that festival, I'd say, was just a wonderful experience.
Man, that sounds like a lot of fun.
It was a lot of fun. We actually built the patio out of skids. We called it. Some people call it Skid Row or Skidsville, but just as a funny play on that idea. But the 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 business that's at the front of the brewery, Nick's Cleaners, actually the owner owns the Wainfleet pallet business, and he donated all these temporary use of all these pallets, and we built this beautiful stand-up bar patio across 70, I think it was 75 feet long, occupying the street. So it really gave festival goers a good chance to kind of celebrate Kame Kettle. So what happens in this is almost like a homecoming, this festival, that a lot of local residents will invite relatives and friends from out of town to come down for the weekend and then participate in this. And then they get to, hey, come on over and see our brewery, you know? So they take a little bit of pride and ownership in the fact that we're here.
Wow, you've really flourished in this community. It sounds amazing. On the other side, what do you wish people would have told you about opening a brewery?
Well, I mean, that's a good question. You know, I really don't know how to answer that, Shauna. I don't have any regrets. So I guess that would be, that'd be looking into some of my regrets, and I can't say that I have any. So
what advice would you give somebody who is thinking about, like my hubby, who, you know, is a hobby craft beer brewer, you know, in their home, and, you know, they're ready to retire or something, and they want to do something different. They want to create a tourism destination, perhaps. What's your advice?
Well, I think the beer industry, based the people that work in and the consumers of it are a friendly bunch. So there is it is a happy place, no matter how you slice it. It is somewhat like a racehorse, though. Some days you can win and some days you can lose. So you better have a pile of money when you do it, because you'll probably have to push it in one way for quite some time before you see anything come out. But it is fun. There's nothing that really makes for a bad day in the brew business.
Have you ever thought about working for someone else? I mean, as a serial entrepreneur, were there ever times when you thought about working for someone else?
No, it's never something I really desire ever. Yeah.
That's an inspiration. I can concur.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Todd, for spending some time.
Yeah, no, that's great. I think on my report card at an early age, it did say that Todd has a problem with authority.
I think that is an entrepreneurial trait, perhaps.
Perhaps, yeah.
All the best to you. Thank you so much, Todd, for spending time with me today. I really appreciate it.
Okay. Have a good day.